Steven Universe and all associated images are property of Cartoon Network, Rebekah Sugar, and any and all other respective owners. I don't know them all. All footage in this video has been used for the purpose of critique parody under fair use. Please support the official release. So, you guys may or may not know that recently, all 5 episodes of the upcoming Steven Bomb were released online on the Cartoon Network app, a full month before they were supposed to air on television. It's like the proof that Cartoon Network doesn't really care about Steven Universe just keeps on piling up. And what's worse is this wasn't even a leak. They made the choice to release them themselves, without discussing it with the crew, of course. It's like they got a group of brain-dead monkeys working there, I swear. Anyway, the point of pointing that out is to let you guys know that this theory is based in part on information revealed in those 5 episodes, one of those episodes in particular. Now, before you consider this video a spoiler and click off of it, please keep in mind that I will not be spoiling any plot details at all in this video. The one spoiler present here is a single detail that has no bearing whatsoever on the plot of any of these 5 particular episodes. Will it have a bearing on the plot of the show overall? I think so, and that's what this theory is about. Trying to pin down exactly what that impact might be. Also keep in mind that there is some debate as to whether or not this particular detail is accurate. Some fans definitely hear this detail spoken, others don't. I'm honestly not sure if I heard it or not, but the subtitles for the episode seems to agree with it, so as of right now I'm considering it at least is 70% likely. That detail is, Lapis Lazuli's, their purpose as gems is to terraform planets for homeworld conquest. Now, for those of you who don't know, terraforming is defined specifically as transforming an environment so that it is livable by human beings. However, it has a much more loose definition in most science fiction, and I think that looser definition applies here considering that gems aren't human. That is basically transforming a world to suit the needs of a group that doesn't typically come from there. Not only is this a huge reveal if it is accurate, as the fandom has been wondering for a long time what it is that Lapis Lazuli's do for Homeworld, but it actually fills in a surprising amount of Lapis's history, or at least I theorize that it does. Consider for a second what it is that we have seen Lapis able to do. What is the very first truly impressive feat that she carried out on screen? I'd say it's probably, I don't know, lifting all of the water in all of Earth's oceans all at once. Even if we assume that it was only the oceans and not like, say, the seas or the rivers, for example, that is a huge, almost unfathomable amount of water. The Atlantic Ocean alone holds over 300 million cubic kilometers of water. And while Steven's Earth is different from ours in a lot of ways, if anything, it has more water than ours does. I mean, there's no way that we can be sure that that's true, but it certainly doesn't have less. So, assuming that the amount of water covering Steven's Earth is the same as ours, that's a really big number. Even if you assume that the details in that episode were in some way exaggerated and she only pulled the water out of part of the planet's oceans, that's still a huge, huge amount of water to move. The fandom talks a lot about how Lapis is one of the most powerful gems we've ever seen, if not the most powerful. But I don't think that a lot of fans realize exactly how true that is. And while we have mostly seen Lapis move large amounts of water while it is still connected to the body of water that sourced it, we also know that she doesn't have to do that. So theoretically, she could lift huge amounts of water from one part of a planet and move it to another, or even divert entire rivers. And I think that that latter thing is exactly what Lapis Lazuli's are used to do. While I would imagine that gems don't only use planets with water on them to create new gems, because nothing in the creation of gems specifically calls for water, just minerals, the fact that they tried to colonize Earth proves that at least some of the planets that they colonize do have large sources of water. Now, keeping all of that in mind, keeping water in mind, water and its capabilities in nature, take another look at the kindergarten and tell me, what does it look like? If you said a canyon, you're absolutely right. I think that the terraforming that Lapis Lazuli's are used for is using water sources on planets which have water sources which are capable of creating new gems, to carve out artificial ravines and canyons in rocky or otherwise mountainous areas of those planets so that kindergartens can be laid out. The best guess for the location of the prime kindergarten is somewhere in the eastern Appalachian Mountains, based on where it is that Steven's hometown is located and the fact that he and Amethyst were able to take a train to the prime kindergarten kindergarten in about a day. Something had to have carved the kindergarten into those mountains. And while I'm sure it's possible for gems to use machines and other tools to do that instead, look at how effortlessly Lapis uses her powers. In theory, a single lapis lazuli would be able to carve out an entire kindergarten on her own. And while the timeline doesn't allow for Lapis to have carved out the beta kindergarten, since she was poofed after she was caught in the start of the war and the beta kindergarten wasn't commissioned until halfway through the war, I think that it is not only possible but incredibly likely that if Lapis Lazuli's purpose when she was still affiliated with Homeworld was to terraform, that Lapis, our Lapis, was responsible for carving out what would later become the Prime Kindergarten. Consider for just a second how much this explains. Whether my theory that Pink Diamond had something to do with the reproduction of gems turns out to be true or not, it is clear that Rose started out as a Pink Diamond gem and that Pink Diamond was in charge of the Earth colony. Rose would have been in some way associated with the establishment of the colony. This means that there's a very good chance that Lapis and Rose met each other, just like I suggested they might have in my last Lapis theory. In keeping with that same theory, and the idea that both Rose and Lapis took interest in humans and just went different ways with it, it is even possible that the two of them met humans for the first time while working on the kindergarten. And even if they didn't, if Lapis's trip to Earth, the one that she mentioned to Steven, wasn't supposed to last that long, i.e. wasn't supposed to last past her carving out sites for kindergartens, was to carve out kindergartens, that would make Lapis the kind of gem that Rose would approach in order to try to sway her to Rose's side, as without her, colonization efforts would come to a relative halt until an alternative could be brought in, thus explaining Lapis's remark that she never really believed in the Earth. Rose at some point approached her and asked her to stop constructing the kindergarten, and Lapis made the choice not to listen to Rose, to continue following Homeworld. It explains why Bismuth went for Lapis specifically, because she was actively destroying the planet that Rose and her crystal gems were fighting to save. And finally, it explains why Lapis glossed over her backstory when telling it to Steven. That period of her backstory, at least. Because that short time that she was supposed to be on Earth, that was cut short by the start of the war, was a short time spent destroying his home. Something that she wouldn't want him to know about. This is why, even though this particular detail, Lapis's purpose, is still being heavily debated by the fandom, I do think that the purpose of Lapis to terraform is more than likely true. Now this opens up a few more questions. Is it possible maybe that the resource shortage on Homeworld is because they no longer go to planets with water sources, planets that would have organic life, perhaps for the fear that more gems will come to appreciate that life and rebel? Is it possible that in Era 2, Lapis Lazulis are obsolete? That, fortunately, is a theory for an entirely different video, because this video is already starting to run a little long. All of that said, though, guys, what did you think of this theory? Do you find it to be well-formed, or do you see this one being washed away by the tide? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below. Either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later. Okay, so yes, I do realize it was probably bad form to release this before the Steven Bomb actually airs normally, and I did kind of make myself into a little bit of a hypocrite by watching the Steven Bomb online before it aired. As official or not, I do still consider this a leak, and I have said before that I don't like leaks, but come on. This was a big deal kind of Steven Bomb, guys. I just couldn't help myself, and I wouldn't fault any of you guys who go and watch the episodes right now. Just be sure to watch them again when they air normally. Believe me, you're gonna want to. If anybody's curious as to where to find the episodes, just let me know in the comments, and I'll do my best to give you guys a link. I'd put it here, but on the off chance that the link I have right now stops working, I don't want it to be here forever. Anyway, I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, of course, feel free to like and favorite, and definitely if you know of anybody else who might enjoy it, I'd really appreciate it if you would share it with them. Also, I urge you to check out my Patreon page. I've got some interesting rewards set up, and chances are at least one of them will interest you. But more than anything else, guys, thank you for watching.